Hi, and welcome to the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show. This episode of the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show comes to you from Tegs Tools, with 2 locations to serve you in Hamilton, one at 1104 Barton Street East, and in the mountain at 1361 Rymel Road East, your go-to store for hard-to-find tools and machinery. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show. In this episode, I am interviewing Jerry Arkema of the Chairmakers shop. I have watched Jerry over the years evolve into some very fine work. And on top of that, he has a background as one of our frontline heroes. So watch to find out. Thanks. So Jerry, thanks so much. I'm so excited that you're willing. We've connected a few times now. Over the last, yeah. So that's great. So anyways, I was excited to see when I got the email about your changing up your business and moving into the chair manufacturing, and wow, they're beautiful. So I have a lot of questions about it, but maybe I'll just let you start off by talking about how did you start in woodworking, and how did you end up evolving into the chair side of things?
Well, that's funny. I could go way, way back, but I remember the first time I ever built something was, I was like 7 years old. My grandfather and I sat down and built a cabinet together. More like I watched him build it, and but he let me apply the finish on it, put a big coat on me and said, put the varnish on. And so that's going way back. But then I would say I could start when I was 15, getting into high school. I was given the opportunity of a job at a machine shop. And at that shop, my hours were 2 hours after school, 5 hours on Saturdays, and full-time in the summer. I started out sweeping floors. But then I worked there all through high school, and I worked into starting running machinery and, big boring mills, Blanchard grinders, which is a Blanchard grinder. It basically takes a plate of steel, you put it on a magnet, and you grind one side flat, you flip it over, you grind the other side flat. And it's funny because you do the same thing with wood, right? It's
right.
All somewhat much more tighter tolerances. They would work to a couple thousandths of an inch. Right. And, we use LEVES there. I had the opportunity to run forklifts. So, I got my hands on the tools right away at a pretty young age. At 15, I was already working tools and learning lots, learning work ethic, things like that. With work ethic and examples, I remember they had me working on a piece, and some of the stuff was big money. And I remember screwing it up. I just misread something, put the hole in the wrong spot, right? Drilled the hole in the wrong spot on this nicely machined piece of steel. Boss came over, looked at it, told me it was wrong, threw his tape measure against the wall, and walked away.
Well, yeah.
So I stayed at home. What do I do now? So I started sweeping the floor again. So I just sat there, swept. The next day he came back and he said, here's the new piece of steel. Don't screw it up this time and do it again.
Yeah.
Right? Just, hey, that's how it goes. You learn from your mistakes, you move on, right? So I did that all through high school. And then during high school as well, I took woodworking all through high school. And I was lucky because I had some really awesome shop teachers. They taught a lot, and we had a lot of fun all the time. I actually got on the honor roll because I was not a great student. But the one semester I had all woodworking, and it put me into the honor roll.
That's awesome.
It's because of that. And then also in high school, I had the opportunity to take it's called the construction co-op. So for half the year, we went and built a house, basically. So we did, in the morning, we would have woodworking class and English class in the wood shop. And then in the afternoon, we went and built a house with Madame Homes. So that got me
cool
to do framing and, all the different trades. They sort of send us out to work with all the different trades. And then we come back to the main house that as students we were building. So I had that opportunity. And then also, I guess it was grade 12, they kind of created a bit of a co-op for me there as well to do maintenance around the tech wing, you know, fixing walls, fixing this, fixing that. And so that gave me, you know, a good start into this stuff. And then as soon as I graduated high school, I started framing houses. Like we had a 3-man crew.
Yeah.
And we were fast. We were, you know, we did a good job. We put up these houses and put them up fast.
Who were you putting the houses up for? Do you know what the company was, or was it like?
It was Pidell Homes.
Pidell. Okay.
Yeah, it was Pidell Homes.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, so I did that. And you know what? I loved it. At the time, I was, you know, 18 years old. So working outside every day.
Yeah, that's a fun job. Definitely. I could see that being a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you learn so much, right? Like, and it's just a good starting opportunity in the carpentry trades, right? Because as you know, carpentry goes such a wide variety of areas.
Yes,
right?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started there framing houses. I really enjoyed it. And then I had an opportunity to do some like, I guess you would call it mission work, like fixing homes. And like I ended up going to Puerto Rico for a month or two after one of the hurricanes that happened. And it was a volunteer, but it was still a good time, right? So I went there for, I think, 6 or 8 weeks, and we just fixed up homes from the hurricane, which was really unique because it was in Puerto Rico and the construction is totally different, right? Yeah. A lot of concrete work and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that experience must have been almost life-changing then.
You would think so, but to be honest, I was just having fun.
Yeah, like, okay. Well, how old were you?
I was, I would have been 18 at that point.
All right.
No, sorry, I would have been 19 at that point.
Okay.
Maybe 20, I'm not on 20. And it was an opportunity to travel and to not have to pay to do it.
Right. Yeah.
I had to work, but it was fun. I got to go to Puerto Rico on somebody else's dollar, right?
Yeah, that's cool. I wish.
But I did have to work, and I met some great people, had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then when I came back from there, I ended up doing like a youth group. We went to Kentucky, and we were building homes out there. It's a company that's similar to Habitat for Humanity. So right in the heart of Kentucky, or southeast Kentucky, the Appalachian Mountains, where all the coal mining used to be really, really big. And as the coal mining died down, there was a lot of poverty and low income and not much jobs. So I was there and with my youth group there, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come stay for a while?" And I said, "Sure, I'll live in Kentucky for a while." Right? So same idea. They pay
for it.
Right? We had a unlimited amount of groceries at the grocery store and vehicles to drive, and we got like $100 a month or something like that, and just worked, built houses. And then I remember they saying, "So do you know how to frame a house?" And at that point, I was still relatively new. I said, "Oh yeah, I can frame a house." They said, "Okay, here you go." And that's how you learn. So I just went and did it.
Yeah,
right?
You have to. That's how you do it, and you learn from your mistakes too, right? Like you said, with that piece of metal there.
Exactly. Right.
The same thing. I have a few stories myself.
I said, if I screw it up, I'll fix it. No big deal, right? So I did that, and I was framing houses for them. And then the way that place worked is they had groups come in, say like high school, college groups, and they would come in a week at a time and stay at the I guess it was a big warehouse at the place where I was working. And I would take about 20 people and go build a house. So I was in charge of like, say, 20 of these high school, college age people, and we would just go build a house. So they would do all the hammering and the nails. And if someone had experience, I'd say, "Okay, you're going to cut my stuff for me." And
right.
And they were small houses, simple houses, right? So we could usually frame one in a week, get it up. And then, so I did that for about a year and a half. And again, I met so many great people. I bet you I'm in about 1,000 different photo albums across the U.S. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good life experience. I didn't know this about you. That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was fun. And again, you know what? I actually had 2 friends from Cambridge that came down as well. My buddy Howie and my buddy Kevin.
Okay.
Having fun out there. So they came out as well. So the three of us live together in a house, and you can't go wrong, right? Good people, lots of fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then when I came back, and then I thought, okay, I got to start making some money. I got to get a real job,
Yeah.
right? So when I came back to Cambridge, I started working for this guy, Tim Kanan. He did everything, like more finishing stuff, right? So he was a one-man operation, but he did a lot of trim work. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, you know, I do have a pretty versatile, but it all really comes back down to reading a tape measure, using a tool.
For sure. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's really quite a story of, you know, starting off with framing houses to fine furniture, you know, to get to that point is, and you're right. There's like, what would you call it? Like a genre of carpentry, like it's so wide and you have all these different options of how you want to use that talent, right? Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start building furniture then?
Well, so throughout all this, I always sort of built furniture, right? Like I always had a little bit of a shop. And actually, after I worked with this guy, Tim, I ended up hooking up with Henning Construction. That's these guys here.
Yes.
Awesome company. Actually, the one guy, he's my brother-in-law now. Our wives are sisters.
Okay.
So I started working with them, and they were a custom home builder. So they did everything from the ground up. So they excavated, concrete, framing, we didn't really hang or tape, maybe on a small project, but they built, you know, $1 million custom homes. So I got the opportunity to do everything from start to finish.
Yeah.
Right? And that even included, say, doing built-ins and cabinets and stuff like that. So they had a shop. So I had the opportunity to do shop work there. And that was always the best days were in the shop. That's what I liked, you know. I enjoyed on-site work and stuff like that, but I always really, really enjoyed being in the shop. So that, you know, started out with cabinets and stuff like that. So I worked with them for a bunch of years. And just like I said, I got into everything with those guys. And we did a lot of trim, you know, a lot of chrome. Fireplaces like the one right behind you. We did a lot of stuff like that. And again, that really, you know, that's a step towards fine furniture as well.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. Very tight tolerances, right? They were all about quality. So everything had to be done. It had to be done right.
Yeah, we're talking multi-million-dollar homes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were living my dream. I always wanted to do that, work for a custom home builder. It never happened. I did work for a home builder, but it wasn't a custom one.
Yeah, it has its ups and downs, you know, but they were really good people to work for. That's the bonus of it, right? And so we did that. And then actually one of the guys who worked there as well, he went out on his own. And I went out on my own after that. And then when I was working on my own, I had, about 6 or 7 different contractors I would subcontract through. One that I did all trim work for. Like I trimmed a bunch of houses for him, right? And then there was another guy where I would do just his commercial doors and stuff. And I had another, was a kitchen company. So I would do their installs for them, right? And then, so I worked with that. That's Whistle Construction. Jeff Fluid, really good guy. He did a lot of additions. So we started doing additions. So, you know, working off an existing house and then addition on. And then, you know, a lot of them are old houses, you know, old Victorian homes. And
yeah, that's like my house. Like my house is a big old home.
Yeah. And then we would say, leave the level in the truck because nothing in that house is straight to begin with, right? So
that's true. That's true. That's
right.
funny.
So you got to be creative.
Yeah.
And then I ended up hooking up with a millwork company and doing all their installs for a while. And it was just all millwork and like school board cabinet. Like we would go into all the kindergarten rooms and put all the cabinets in.
Yeah. Maple plywood.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Maple plywood. I was in the plywood industry for a while. Yeah. I sold plywood. So I know that one.
Exactly. So I did that for a while. And then what ended up happening is his main guy in the shop left him and quit, and he was just sort of, oh shit, what am I going to do now? I'm don't know what to do. So he said, can you come into the shop and work? So I said, yeah, all right. So there I go into the shop and I start working with him. Okay.
Right. Your favorite place, the shop.
Yeah. It's my favorite place. But that being said, plywood stuff, it's good, but it's pretty repetitive too, right?
Yeah. Any kind of cabinetry stuff with plywood is, it's woodworking, but it's building boxes.
Yeah, kind of once you understand it, is okay, I got this, right? Like, so I did that for a while. And then it ended up being kind of wanted to venture back into solid wood stuff. And then I had an opportunity to tear down a barn one time. So I went and got a bunch of buddies together, and we took down this barn, and I got all the threshing floorboards from the barn. And that was the deal.
For free? For free?
Yeah, well, it wasn't free because I had to knock the barn down.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes.
So I dismantled the barn. It was a small barn. We dismantled the barn, and I got all the threshing floorboards. And this is actually very early on in the reclaim game. Like, and I know you were in that game and have played that, like 10 years ago. It wasn't a huge thing, right?
About 5 years ago, I feel like it started to really, or maybe a bit before that, really started to be popular. Yeah.
So I remember sitting there doing research on it thinking, man, nobody's really building these. There's only a select few people doing the reclaim tables and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, I'm going to jump in, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start building reclaim tables. So I got these barn boards, and I didn't, and I was very successful doing it, right? So, working with reclaimed material isn't always the most healthiest, funnest thing to do either, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It takes a lot more work to turn a reclaimed piece of wood into something.
And that's just it. Like, you can't just, some people think you can just slap a table with a bunch of boards together, but to make it look good, it takes a lot to get there, right?
That's right.
Because also when they were building these barns, they were never milling that material to be furniture. They were milling that to be a barn.
Which was nothing fancy.
Yeah.
So it was to house animals.
Yeah. Like, they didn't care what it looked like. They didn't care which way the grain ran. They didn't, and that made sense. They were, 200 years ago, they were building a barn, so they just needed it done. I was doing that for quite a while, and then all of a sudden it seemed like everyone was doing it, right? And then it was like there was a lot of people doing reclaimed tables.
Yes, that's true.
What am I going to do now? And then throughout at that same time, I did kitchens, like so I had a shop at this point, like a full size shop. I think it was 40 by 30. It was in a barn. And so I was doing the odd kitchen, a lot of built-ins, custom built-ins, and then the harvest tables, right? And benches. And then even then I started into chairs, but it was funny, like with chairs is a whole different ballgame, right?
I have never done one myself, but yeah, I've heard and I've seen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All your true talents have to go right into all the different areas of that. It's
pretty, at first it was kind of intimidating to think, I don't know, I could probably slap a chair together, but to do it proper, to do it so that it actually holds itself. So for a long time, like when customers say, will you do chairs for me? And I would be like, you know what? Nah, I'm not gonna, I'll let you go to somebody else for chairs and stuff like that. And, but then it was always like, I really like chairs though. Okay. So I started researching, and then I came across Windsor Chairs in my research, and I fell in love with Windsor Chairs. I love them, and then the fact that they were building these chairs in the 16th, 17th century, and they still have those chairs.
I know, right? That's amazing that they actually they hold up.
That's just it. Like around here, the average chair, how long does it last you? 5 years, 10 years, maybe?
Right. Yeah.
And these chairs that last hundreds of years. So then I really started digging into that, right? So, okay, why? What makes these chairs so strong? And then, who was it? I remember listening to, I came across Curtis Buchanan. He's a chairmaker in Tennessee. And he tells his little story, how he got into chair making. And that it was right at that, I listened to that. I said, that's what I got to do. I got to make chairs. And then the other part of it was no one else makes chairs around here. Like there's the odd chair maker, like there, you can buy chairs. You can go on Wayfair and buy chairs or Pottery Barn or wherever, but true chair makers, right? That's where I started researching and reading books and watching videos and just anything I can get my hands on. Like, it's funny, you ask my wife and she goes, what are you thinking about? And I would start to say chair or wood chair. I don't want to hear about it.
That's funny.
I don't want to hear about it, she says, right? So, I was saying to her, I said, I don't know about this podcast or this Zoom. I don't know if I'm going to have anything to say. She goes, you've been talking about this for 10, 20 years. Just go and talk.
I'm more than happy to listen.
Yeah, and I guess the thing with the Windsor chair, when I start, let's just start with the Windsor chair. It starts with the seat. It's a solid wood seat, right? Let's say if you're going to paint the chair, you could start with a pine seat, and then you want to dry, that pine to be air dried. Hopefully, it can be kiln dried, but moisture content is a huge part in making chairs.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Like every piece of wood, and this from being in the mill, right? Like when you have a piece of lumber, when it's cut down, it's green, it's wet, and it's heavy.
Yes.
Right? And then you got to run through the process of drying it out and drying it out properly to get it down to 6 or 8%.
Right.
It's typically what the mill would do, correct?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's different with chairs?
Well, with these types of chairs, so what I do is say the seat it's going to be whatever the moisture content is in the area. So it'd be probably 12% moisture content, right? So which is dry, but it's not dried in a kiln, but it's dry.
Yes. So
then I take my legs and I'll churn the legs out of green lumber. So I'll split them right from the log. And the reason I split them right from the log is so you get perfect straight grain. So I got what's called, I started with wedges and a hammer. And I take that wedge and I just start splitting the log right on the fibers. Let the log split where it wants to.
Okay.
Now you're getting perfectly straight fibers, right? So you split it into a square and you can throw it on the lathe and you can spin on the leg, turn the leg, right? But you know you have continuous straight grain, which is its maximum strength, right? And then if green log, meaning green, it hasn't been run through the kiln, it hasn't been dried, it's just been cut, harvested within the last year or so.
Yeah.
It just cuts like butter. It's beautiful. The shavings fly off and it cuts like butter. It's beautiful.
Is there a problem with it splitting afterwards, or like?
Well, no, because the idea is that you're getting it, and again, straight grain.
Yes.
Right? And then also once you churn it, I'm churning them down to, 1.5 inches, say, and then smaller some areas that it actually dries out nicely without checking.
Okay.
But in a whole, there's no issue. And then also when it's that small, it doesn't take as long to dry. Right?
Yes.
So then I'll rough them out, leave them in my shop to dry.
Okay.
Right? But then when it comes time to making the chair, I'll pull that leg back out and I'll turn it down to close to finished size. And then so wherever the leg goes into the seat, it's on a taper, like a 6-degree taper. And I'll fit that taper just about perfect. And then I throw it in my kiln. I have a little light bulb kiln.
Oh, yeah.
So the tenon that's going to go in the seat actually dries out. So it gets super, super dry. It actually goes almost down to 5% moisture content.
Okay.
Then I throw back on and I get a precise fit right down to a couple thousandths of an inch. And then when it goes into assembly, because that is so dry, it goes into the seat and it takes the moisture of the seat, which is at about 12% moisture content, and it actually swells into the mortise.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, so it takes on the moisture of the seat, which actually gives it a permanent lock, right?
Yeah.
I've actually built chairs and stools where I didn't even use glue, and it still holds. Like I got this guy here. This is a shop stool.
Yeah.
Right? But I still usually put glue in just because you should glue your seats, right?
Yes. You should. So did they use glue 200 years ago as well, or did they depend on that bond of the wood, the moist wood with the drier wood?
They would still use glue.
They would still use glue. Okay.
Yeah, so traditionally they use hide glue, and actually I use hide glue as well.
Oh,
right?
okay.
And one of the benefits of hide glue is you can actually repair it.
What is hide glue? What is that?
It's a glue made from animal hides, basically.
Okay.
So, but the thing with hide glue is you can reheat it, and it'll let itself loose.
Okay, this is good to know.
And repair it. That's why you see a lot of antique dealers and stuff when they're repairing furniture from 100, 200 years ago. That's part of the reason it can be done is because they can heat that glue up.
Yeah.
And it'll
release. Wow.
Yeah. Unlike the PVC glues these days, like your yellow wood glue, you can't do that with. It's a one-time go, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And if that glue fails, then that glue fails, right? And then so along with the chairs too, you could do, so when it comes to the spindles, you can get really, really nice thin spindles on the back of your chairs that are flexible because you're using a straight grain again. So I would use what's called a fro in my draw knife. So I just work that down, but into a nice thin small piece, nice spindle, and it's flexible, right? And you can take it and you can try to bend it, and it doesn't break. Well, you could break it eventually, but it's very, very strong because it's a continuous wood fibers, right?
Yes.
And and then there's also some steam bending involved. So I got a little steam chamber here. So I'll steam the wood, and then I bend it into its forms. And and then
what do you have, like a jig or something that you use for that to hold it in place while it dries out? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So I got like right now I'm actually working on a continuous arm rocker. So it comes down and then across like that sort of. So when you sit in it, it's all one continuous piece. Because a lot of the chairs that are sold out in the world, not made by Chairmakers, they're laminated pieces together, right? A bunch of thin strips glued up and then bent into shape. Versus actually taking a nice straight piece of wood and making a continuous bend with that one piece of wood, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a nice, challenging project. Is that
I've broken quite a few in my tries.
Right. Is that like remember back in the 70s with the rattan rocking chairs? I remember.
I'm not familiar with that, no.
You're not familiar with those? Okay, well, I know my mom had one when my brother was born. Somebody gave it to her as like a shower gift or something, and it was continuous wood. It just went around and came down and around, and then it rocked. But you could see the like joints if you looked closely. It wasn't continuous wood. It was like this, right? Yeah. Yeah. And then so like I know like I got my a couple walnut chairs there, and they're post and rung chairs. So it's the same idea. So like the back legs, the back posts, they're steam bent. So they're into a form. So I put them in my steam chamber for my steam box for, I don't know, a couple hours, pull them out, and I got a form that I bend them in, let them dry out. And then same with the back crest, it's steam bent as well. And then when it comes time to assembling them, again, it's all moisture content. So the chair rungs, I super dry them. And then when I put the mortise into the legs, it's a tight fit when it goes together, but then again, it expands. The chair rung will expand into the leg, giving it a permanent fit, right? Yeah. And the one thing I shoot for with my chairs is it's kind of negative space in a way, right? I like thin chairs. I bulky chairs, they're nice, but I like thin chairs. That's what, I like to push the limits on it, try to get it as small as possible, but still have the strength. I love the designs. Because I went over your website, and it's sort of a minimalist look to it. Yeah, and with a little bit of a lower profile in the back and that, and I really, really think they're beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And like people are always surprised on how light they are. They'll pull, oh man, that's light. Yeah. And the other thing I work on is comfort. It's got to be a comfortable chair. Nobody wants an uncomfortable chair. Like that's pointless in a way. To have a chair to look at, that's not, Yeah. It's got to be comfortable, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I came across I love like mid-modern or mid-century modern look. I think it's a great, And then I came across the Danish Cord. And then, so that's why I started to apply the Danish Cord, right?
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that. So that's the rope, that's Danish Cord?
Yeah. That's right from Denmark.
Okay.
And, that would be Danish, yeah.
Okay, and what's it made of? Like, what is it?
It's made of paper. It's a paper product.
Okay.
And it's woven together, like it's tightly strand together, and it really there's no stretch to it.
So are you like actually weaving those together?
Well, no, I buy the cord. Sorry?
Like the seat part, like it's weaved together, right? So are you actually doing the weaving as well?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you learn that?
Trial and error, right? And it's funny because I see like a lot of the Danish Cord stuff, it's got really thick rails. So they put little nails on the inside. so that you can actually sort of just loop it around the nail and back the other way, loop around the nail and back. But I don't want those thick rails. I like I said, small rails, right?
Yeah.
And so really it's continuous piece. That's the hard part. Like have to figure out how much cord do I need?
Yeah.
And just, like a continuous piece of cord, because you can't have a knot. And on some of the weaves, you can't have a knot in the middle of the seat. It just wouldn't look right.
Right.
So I figure out how much length I need, and I coil it up, and then I use that and I weave it through.
Yeah.
And the first one I did, oh man, it took me 8 hours.
Yeah.
And I was just, this isn't going to work.
I imagine it would be frustrating the first one.
Yeah, I think there's no way I'm going to make my money back doing this. Right? No one's going to pay that.
Yeah, sure.
For this chair. Right? But I got it. Over time, I got it down, and I figured out the most efficient way. Right. And I'm always learning. So I'm sure there's going to be, I'll come across a better way to do it eventually. But for now, it's working. Right? Yeah. And I really like the Danish Cord look. It's a nice look, right?
It is. It is beautiful. Are you selling are you selling your chairs anywhere besides like your website? Are you in any stores yet or anything like that? Are you looking to do that?
Well, I've been in talk actually.
Yeah.
So I have a store in Cambridge here that I've been talking about. They're interested in carrying them. And I've been trying to target, like through marketing, some interior designers and stuff like that.
You should have no problem with that. Like with interior designers loving your work. Definitely.
Yeah.
Interior designers love chairs. So run with that. Definitely. They love chairs.
Yeah. So I'm in talks with some of them, and I got to just sort of work out, because they got to be able to make money off it too. So work out a wholesale price versus the retail price.
Yeah.
And that's a learning curve for me as well right now, trying to figure that out. Right?
Yeah. That's how do you go about figuring that out? Like you have to look at your total cost, and then you look at other chairs that are similar that are being sold in the store, and then sort of like do the math.
Yeah. But again, Paula, to be honest, it's hard because like I look at the chairs that I'm building, there's not that many guys that are making them, right?
Right. Right. They're very special.
Right. And so I can work with that. But so a lot of them aren't in the stores around me so much. So right now I'm trying to work that out.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing too, is I went to one place and we were talking, and I said, well, this is a $900 chair. And then they said, and we talked about it, and they said, well, you would have to sell that chair for $900 and I would have to sell it to you for a little less so that you make your money, right? Because if they sell it for $1,000, it doesn't look good on either one of us if you can get it on my website for $900, at least in my opinion. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I guess at some point you'll have to make a decision then if you really, I would say, if you want to sell them yourself or if you want someone else to sell them for you.
I would have to take the hit on it then, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
What do you think?
That's it. Well, I don't know. I think you should run with the interior design thing. Yeah. And I'm gonna we're gonna talk more on that afterwards because I have some connections for you, definitely.
Okay.
That people I happen to know some interior designers, and I know how much they love chairs.
Yeah.
And they're willing to put them in their showrooms, and they're willing to sell them to their high-end clients, and their high-end clients. They're so busy, they don't know who you are. They just want your chair because they like the way it looks and feels, and because it's comfortable, right? Yeah. To take that cut after all your hard work, I don't know if I'd do it. You know what I mean? Like you're the one that it's all your blood, sweat, and tears. Mm-hmm. So I could see wanting to keep that to yourself, and I definitely think that you have something there that you can just run with in that direction instead of looking at the stores, unless the stores want to, like maybe you'll find the right place, the right store. But I could see just keep just keep doing your thing, advertising, put your posts up, it'll come with time, Well,
I've always felt if you do a great product, it's going to work out, right? Like
yes.
It's funny because, you in the long run, if you spend more money on, say, one of my chairs, it's going to last for a lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Versus you can buy 3 or 4 chairs in that lifetime and you're going to end up spending more.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I have like a cheap Ashley set in my kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The round table with 4 chairs. And honest to goodness, those chairs have literally cracked on me, and I've had to re-glue them. The dowels have started coming apart, all sorts of things,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the only thing that makes them comfortable at all, and they aren't not comfortable, is the cushioning.
Yeah.
Right? So I can see the value to making that purchase of something that's really, stylish and timeless, and the quality, and just having it forever, and being able to eventually, like, I don't know, when you die, pass it on to your grandkids or whatever, right?
Yeah, and you know what? That's the other thing. Like, I take pride in my chairs, and they have pretty much a lifetime warranty on the framework of them. Like, the Danish Cord's going to wear eventually, but like all my joinery, you know what? You ever have a problem with that?
Yeah.
Just call me. I'm around. I'm going to fix it because I stand behind it. I know it's going to last. Right. I remember years ago when I made one of my early on chairs, I thought, I wonder how strong it is. So I took it outside and I started throwing it in the air, letting it hit the ground.
Oh.
Right? Throwing it up as high as I could, and it just bounces off the ground. I still have it. I still have that chair, and it's in perfect, it's a little scratched up from being in the shop, but it's still, there's no issues with it, right? It's built to last.
I'm gonna have to come by and see some of your chairs. I'm only one city over.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, one of these days we'll have to do that after, when it's safe, right?
I just had this thought, and I just want to throw this out there too. Like, I feel in today's world that we have wood, and wood is a renewable resource, right?
Yeah.
We can grow forests, and trees give us oxygen. We need to plant more trees, but we can use trees, right? We don't need to save the trees. We need to manage our forests, and we need to use our trees. We got so much plastic and metal and all these products that are, you buy a plastic chair, 5 years later, it goes to the dump. Well, what happens to that plastic? It doesn't biodegrade.
Right.
It's just filling up the landfills, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we get back to the way, using things like wood, use it properly, manage our forests. We can grow more wood. We can grow lots of wood, right?
Yes.
And then we can build them to last a long time, right? So.
Yeah, and even if they end up in the dump, well, eventually they become mushrooms.
Exactly, right? Exactly. You know? I even feel that way, with windows and doors and stuff like that. Like, we got so much, now we have steel doors with this insulation and all these products in there that is no good for anybody, really.
I love a solid wood door.
Yeah, if it's built properly, you're not going to have any issues. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Well, look at all the big old houses with the big old heavy solid wood doors, the oak doors and that, and they're old, really old, and maybe they need refinishing, but they just nothing happens to them. They just stay beautiful.
Yeah, if you maintain them, they'll last them numerous lifetimes, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's my 2 cents. Don't save the trees, grow the trees and use them.
Right on. Yeah. So is there anything else that you wanted to cover? Let me see. We talked about sourcing, so your Danish yarn. What's it called? Danish
Cord. Danish Cord.
Okay, where do you source something like that, or is that sort of secret?
Oh no, it's no secret. It's a place called LEVES Woodworking out of I think they're out of North Bay area.
Okay.
So they sell a lot of chair caning products and stuff like that.
What is it?
LEVES.
Yeah.
AIR.
LEVES. Okay.
So they're actually the only ones in the area, I believe, that sell it. Maybe Lee Valley might sell it. I don't know. But, yeah. Now, as for my logs and my lumber, I sometimes buy them from the mill, Baumanville or Bauman Mill.
Bauman, yeah. Bauman. You just go there and get the logs?
Yeah. Okay. I go there, and they get the skid steer and put it right in my truck for me.
Okay.
Another, I have a friend of mine, Jorn Zeeman. He's Zeeman with the mill, and he has a Woodmiser mill.
Yeah, the man with the mill. Yeah.
Yeah, the mill. Yeah,
we know him. Yeah.
He's such a great guy too. And so I get material through him. Like
Okay.
my last bunch of walnut chairs, I got the walnut from him, and then actually I got a ash log sitting in my outside my shop right now that I got from him.
Right on.
For me, I have sources. Sometimes you hear people have a hard time getting them, but they're there, right?
Well, if you're looking for logs, you probably get some free ones here and there too, right?
You know what's funny about that, Paula, is the free logs that you get are usually from urban logs, let's say, from somebody's property. But the problem with those trees are, like, let me backtrack. Like when you buy a log from a forest, that tree was grown in a forest, and it was always fighting for sunlight, which means it was growing straight up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's also wind protected because it's within a forest, versus an urban log is a tree out in front of somebody's house. It was never grown. It could just bloom, do its thing, twist, turn, and it goes in the wind, right? So there's actually a lot of tension and twists within urban logs. Right. Yeah. And like when you mill an urban log, it's got a lot of figuring in it, and it's beautiful, beautiful wood, but it's not always the greatest for making chairs.
Yeah, right? I hear what you're saying. Totally. I've got one of those in my backyard. It's an amazing looking tree.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's growing like this. Literally. Yes. Like, it looks like it's twisting as it grows. Yeah.
So that's why I like when I go with Jorn Zeeman, he knows what I'm looking for, right? So if he fells a tree somewhere, and it's a nice straight ash tree, he knows that's the type of tree I want.
Yeah.
From the middle of the bush, right? That's a nice straight one. And the same thing with the guys at the mill there. All those logs are coming from up north or from the Niagara region and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they're coming from managed forests. Same idea, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Because I remember I dropped a few trees along a field. You know how out in the farmers' fields they'll have the tree lines, right?
Yes.
And the farmers. Those trees too, they're fighting the wind all the time. And then, so I took one of those and I milled it, and man, it was so tough to work. When it dried out, it cupped and twisted, and it was just a nightmare. Right.
Right. So, okay.
That's one thing I've learned about with chair making is I'm very selective on my grain. I like nice grain, right?
That's really good advice to give to anybody that listens to this or watches this, that if you're going to do chairs, make sure your grain is straight. It just makes everything so much easier, and it just makes total sense for strength. It's a good way of explaining how that grain, picking your grain is important depending on what you're making, right? Yeah. So those live edge crazy slabs that you see that are so beautiful and everything, they may not be good for making a chair.
That's right.
They make a beautiful table slab, but you don't want to try to make legs out of that. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's cool. I just learned something.
Yeah. Yeah. So I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Well, that's why I do all these interviews. I'm learning from everybody.
Oh, that's
By the time I'm done doing this, I'll know everything.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Right on.
Is there anything else you wanted to cover, or you think that we're...
Like I said, right now, my website, I had just built that. So check that out. It's www.chairmakersshop.com. So there's 2 S's in there. Check it out. It's funny, as a woodworker, doing the website was a huge learning curve, but it's always good to learn new things, right?
Yeah.
So,
what's your Instagram handle?
So it's at Chairmakers_shop.
Okay. Good.
Right? And then Facebook page is Chairmakers Shop.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, and one last thing that I wanted to add, because we talked about this, was that that you are one of our frontline heroes, right?
Yes, that's true. I am a firefighter as well.
Jerry's a fireman, and he's been on the front line all along, and he's just so cool. That's so amazing. I think that it's wonderful that you have it in you to be there helping people with, and having to wear all that crazy equipment and making people's lives safe and happier. So I just wanted to point that out. And I think the woodworking is a great way for you to overcome some of the stresses that you might have on that job. And it's wonderful that you're able to filter it through to be making beautiful chairs now and other furniture. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm one of the lucky ones. I have 2 careers that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love going to working with the guys at the hall, and I love getting up and going in my shop in the morning.
Yeah, that's so cool. You're lucky. You it sounds like you have a very full life.
Well, and one thing that really helps everything out, I got a supportive wife. She's awesome, right? And
you have to have that, yeah.
She's on board for all this, right? And without her, none of this would be going on. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I got 2 wonderful kids. My son Wyatt, my daughter Chloe. They're awesome.
Yeah, right on.
My son's actually right now, he's working on doing cutting boards. Because I mentioned some of my friends need some cutting boards. I don't want to make them, or charcuterie boards, stuff like that. And he says, I'll make them.
Is he doing glue ups or is he doing like live edge?
He's doing both. Both. He'll do the glue ups and he'll cut the handle out.
Right.
And, he'll sand them. He'll use the spoke shave and stuff like that. Just the other day, though, he started working one with white oak, and he's like, Dad, I don't like the white oak. I'd much rather work with walnut. Right?
Oh, okay.
Because it's so much nicer to work.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I hear that from different people about that. They have their preferences in species because of the characteristics of the different species, right? So I don't have a lot of experience with that. I've only mostly worked with maple, like a soft maple. So
actually, maybe I'll touch base real quickly on that as well. Like, the reason with this chair making, I use a lot of hand tools, as you can probably see behind me here.
Yes.
Right? It's not even so much like, to get to a product quickly, yes, I'll use my planer if necessary and a power saw and stuff. But when it comes to finishing it, you got to it's the only way is with the hand tools to get those precise finishes, right? I use a little bit of sandpaper on my seats, but almost all edges are finished with either the draw knife or the spoke shave because it just gives that clean, nice facets in the wood.
Right.
And, same with the draw knife. So the reason you use a draw knife is it follows the grain of the wood, right?
Yeah.
If you cut a piece on the table saw, it's going to cut. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care which way the grain runs, right? But with the draw knife, I can feel it. I can follow along the grains. So then, that wood might not be perfectly straight, but I can still bend it the way I want it to, right? But at least it is straight. It's continuous. And that's why we, use the hand tools. Even my drills, sometimes I'll use the old wood brace, right? Or the hand drill like this.
Okay.
And one of the reasons I do that is I find it's more accurate. I can get the angle down, right? Like I get the angle. It takes me, I could do it with a cordless in maybe 30 seconds less, but that doesn't matter. It's about getting it right on, right? And that's why
I'd love to see some videos of you doing some of this stuff. You should ask your kids to help you with that. You can just put a few videos on your Instagram and Facebook, right? To show the way you do some of these things.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'd love to see it a little bit. This sounds really interesting. I'd love to watch it and see what how that technique of how you're doing it. And I'm certain that a lot of other people would too, for sure.
Yeah.
Jerry, this has been awesome. I'm so happy that you said yes to an interview. And
well, I appreciate you, Paul. I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, and I appreciate you too. And also that you helped my daughter out with that interview and she got 100%.
Oh, that's great. Awesome.
Yeah, because she wants to be a firefighter as well. So, all right. Well, anyways, okay. So just say your website and your Instagram one more time.
The website is www.chairmakersshop. That's chairmakers with an S, shop.com.
Yeah.
And my Instagram is chairmakers_shop.
Okay, great.
And Facebook is Chairmakers Shop.
All right. Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed watching, be sure to click like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell to stay in the loop. If you have any questions, or if you would like to be featured on the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show, leave a comment below. Until next time.